Education Candidate Forum hosted by the Lee Summit PTA Council. So if you're curious about what the PTA Council is, the council is made up of members of all of our PTA units from across the district. I believe we have 23 currently, 23. Just one more second, we're going to go ahead and get started. I hope you've enjoyed some of the highlights. We had lots of folks submit some of their PTA happenings and things, and excited to showcase those this evening. All right, well, first I just want to thank our candidates for being here tonight. As you guys know, we have 6 candidates running for 2 open seats for the Lee Summit R7 Board of Education. Stacy Myers was not able to be here tonight. She had a previous commitment out of town. But we'll introduce everyone here shortly. But for now, I'd like to go ahead and introduce the Lee Summit PTA Council President, Lorenzo Harrison.
Good evening. Glad to have you here. I'm going to read some opening remarks that I have here, so I don't mess up your phone. All right, tonight marks a significant occasion as we come together to discuss matters that impact the foundation of our community, the education of our youth. Each one of you play a crucial role in shaping the future for our school district. And your commitment to participating in this dialogue is a testament to the strength of our community. In the spirit of collaboration, we're approaching this forum with open minds and a shared dedication to fostering an environment that nurtures academic success, social growth, and our overall well-being for our students. Your perspectives, insights, and questions are not only welcome, but essential to the guiding decisions that will influence the trajectory of our educational system in the city of Lee Summit. I encourage everyone to engage in a thoughtful and respectful discussions as we navigate through the topics on this agenda. By working together, we can ensure that our schools continue to be spaces where every child can thrive, learn, and prepare for a successful future. So once again, we thank you for coming here tonight at the Lee Summit Performing Arts Center. We are live streaming tonight. For those of you that are wanting to share the broadcast, you can share on our Facebook page, which is the Lee Summit PTA Council, and it's also on YouTube tonight. We also want to remind you that tickets are still available for Taste of Lee Summit. There are some representatives here that can give you information on that. It's a little dark, but they can kind of wave their hands right here, representatives right on this side here. If you're wanting to buy tickets and things of that nature, that is on this Saturday. We would like to thank the sponsors for this. We would not be able to do this without monetary dollars. We'd like to thank Refresh Wellness and Counseling, Grip Space, and Door Systems. They're all local Lee Summit businesses here. So let's give them a round of applause for their monetary donations. I'm going to ask this question here to see, does anyone have a graduating senior in here? Please raise your hand. All right. How about now stand up if you're a graduating senior. Or if you're going to have a graduating senior. All right. Or if you are a senior. Is there a senior in the building right now? Yes. How many? Or come to the front really quick here.
No pressure, Ellie. Calling on
Come quick because I'm on a time schedule. I'm on a time schedule. So this is the future. So come out and stand in the middle there. Oh, it's perfect. 4. Yeah, you don't know what you're going to do, but you're about to win something that may help your graduation party. So, all right, so 2 of you get in a group there, find a personal partner. You're going to play rock, paper, scissors. The winner of that round, best 2 out of 3, and then the last 2 we're going to do a final round. So go, rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Okay, go again. All right, our last 2 standing can now play against each other. Is that best 2 out of 3? Is that 2 out of 3? Yeah, best 2 out of 3. Right there. All right, congratulations. Courtesy of Good Space, we have 2 free hours in their event space. It's a $450 value. So the information's in there, so congratulations.
All right, that was ad-lib, so great job, Lorenzo. And thanks again to our sponsors. I do want to recognize our PTA Council Executive Board and all the PTA members that are here tonight. I've highlighted our team on the board. They were all instrumental in making this happen, so if you see them tonight, you should have their name tags on. Please give them a thank you. Not only do these folks serve on the district board, but they're often leaders and members of other PTAs as well. So a round of applause for all the PTA people. Okay. By the way, my name is Melanie, and I'm going to be the timer, moderator, host. I'm privileged to serve as the legislation chair for the PTA Council, and I listed the other things that I participated. If you serve with me on any of these boards or as a member, just know that I appreciate you. None of this is done without a huge team of people, so always thanks back to the team. We see you. All right, last plug of the night before we get started. There is a group in our community that is working so hard to help our teens and high schoolers find employment. If you are a business or know someone that owns a business or work for someone that's hiring and you would be willing to participate in our job fair, even if you're not hiring a ton of people, we would love to have your participation. This is how you can reach out, and I'm happy to provide this to you in an email. So let me know if you're somebody, or we have about 15 or 20 people, businesses, but we'd love to have a few more. All right, you guys heard, we're going to live stream. You can share this later. Last year, a couple housekeeping things. First of all, if you need to leave at any time, obviously do. The restrooms are just straight out the door and to the left. Last year we did it this way, and it worked pretty well. We asked everybody to just be really chill, so we can get through as many questions as possible. So we are going to ask the questions and give a specific time limit. You're welcome to, I don't know, I think people naturally just make some noises, but we're trying not to do applause after each thing. So if we can keep it that way, we'll move smoothly. All right, I also added these resources, which I'm happy to provide. We will hear some discussions tonight about PTA and PTSA, so I just wanted to be sure we're all starting with the same language. And we'll talk about the legislative platform of both our district, and then there's a Missouri PTA legislative platform, as well as one for the national PTA. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer those. And there should have been a handle at the door, so if you guys have any questions, let me know. But I'm ready to get started. So for intros tonight, we're going to do 1 minute and 30 seconds, so you'll have to be short and sweet. And our candidates are listed in the order they'll appear on the ballot. After introductions, we will go through and have each candidate start, they'll get to answer a different question first, right? So we tried to make it as fair as possible. So I'm going to let you guys introduce yourself, if that's okay. And I will start the timer, and it will probably make a noise. And I will make you stop talking. So be prepared. I'm pretty good at that. And then we just said you can finish your sentence, but not like another paragraph. Are you guys ready? After the intros of 1 minute, 30 seconds, the future questions will be, you have 1 minute to answer. And same thing. You won't, we'll let you finish that sentence, but not beyond that. Any questions? All right, I'm really excited. I think you guys have your own mic. Let me make sure it's on. We only have 2, so we're going to share. I'm going to start the timer. Ruben, you're up.
All right, yes, I am Ruben B. Mitchell. I'm a father of 3 young boys, 8, 6, and 3 in the district. I've been here since 2013-ish, and moved here from Vermont. So the weather here is much worse in Vermont. So I got interested in this because of an email from the district 3 years ago saying, hey, if you're a parent, you can apply to do this. Oh, I never heard of it before for some reason. I guess because I just had a kindergarten. And so I followed it, and there was an email the next time around. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, look. So I applied, and then immediately got hammered with all these questions about things I had no idea. And then I decided that, I had no idea. So I dropped out. So I spent the last year going to meetings and trying to figure out what the heck's going on and educate myself, because this was interesting, this was fascinating. That this ginormous, I don't want to go, how it all works together, and really it all comes down to the single classroom, one teacher, one student, just like in the old days, even though it's monstrous, the money, the infrastructure, the people, that was fascinating. So, like I said, I've been here for the last year, going to meetings and meeting people, and so I feel much more in tune with what's going on, although I have a lot to learn. So, I almost got to my speaking, so, anyway, so.
Here. Thank you to PTA for hosting this forum. Thank you to my family for being here to support me. My name is Juanice Williams, and I'm a parent in the Lee Summit School District, and I've been here for about 24 years. My husband and I have 4 daughters that graduated Lee Summit schools. My daughter is a teacher in the Lee Summit School District as well. I've been a social worker for over 20 years. I began my career with child welfare, with the Missouri Child Welfare Department. Then I moved on to become a school social worker in a neighboring school district, and I currently teach social work to students at the University of Central Missouri. In the community, when my kids were in school, I was very involved with PTA. I was a room parent. I was a volunteer parent. I was a booster club member. And I was also a PTA president for 2 years at Woodland Elementary. So I decided to run for the school board because I have a strong belief that kids deserve high quality education regardless of their needs. I also have a passion for childhood mental health. I know it's on the rise. Our district could do more to help support those families, and I look forward to engaging in the conversation this evening.
Hi, my name is Robert Sparks, and I currently serve as the board president for the Board of Education. And I first would like to thank the PTA for giving us this opportunity to be able to share our convictions. I also would like to thank you that decided to spend your evening to hear from all of us and what it is that is our vision for LSR 7 and all of our students and staff. What I will say is that we have made some great strides in the last 3 years in the Lee Summit School District. We've been able to pour into our teachers, and I want to see that continue. We've also been able to create more equitable opportunities in all of our high schools with our robotics and geometry facilities. And then also, I believe that it's important that we continue to focus on safety and the well-being of all of our students and staff. Again, I thank you for this opportunity. I look forward to your questions. And if there's anything that I can do to assist you, please let me know. Thank you.
Good evening. Again, I would like to thank the PTA for hosting this event, and certainly all of you nice folks that came out to hear us talk. My name is Bill Haley. My wife and I have 4 children between us, 2 of which have gone all the way through Lee Summit School and graduated from Lee Summit High School. We've been very engaged in PTA all through our kids' time in school. My wife was actually a PTA member whenever our kids were in grade school at Highland Park Elementary. I'm a product of the public school system, and I'm an enormous fan of public education. I believe public education is one of the cornerstones of success in our country for all of our citizens, and I believe every child should have unfettered access to that, the highest quality education that we can provide them. My wife and I have a history of community service. I'm currently serving on the aeronautical board at the Lee Summit Airport. We've done an enormous amount of work, volunteer work in disaster response. We began doing that work about 10 years ago. We responded to Hurricane Harvey and every other hurricane and tornado and flood that occurred since then, except during the pandemic. So we believe very strongly in community service, and that's what we're here for. I believe we need to focus on our early education, early interventions for reading issues, because if our children are behind when they leave 3rd grade, they're going to stay behind until they leave out of high school. So I believe that's really where we need to focus a lot of our attention. So we'll see what the rest of the evening brings, but thank you all for coming.
All right, hey, good evening, everybody. I got to open it up and just say, I wish that I could see you as well as you can see me, because you're all looking a little challenged right now. But no, I really appreciate everybody being here. My name is Dan Blake, and this is a real honor, and it's been a real journey thus far. You know, I'm a mechanical engineer by trade, and work in the field of obviously engineering and construction. And my background is in, I guess, large capital project execution. So I work with a budget that is approximately a third of the district's current budget. So that would get you maybe a new high school built or a couple of elementary schools. So that's what I like to do during the day. Okay, my motivation really for doing this starts with my young daughter up here on the second row. And she's a fourth grader at Mason Elementary. And you know, honestly, I'm just happy to support her, support other children that, you know, are interested in small businesses and things like that, and help mentor them just as people have mentored me along the way. And that is a real big motivator for me. There are other things that probably good to know. I was served on the board of the American Society of Plumbing Engineers for 4 years, so bring a lot of critical skills that are going to be super solid for the board.
All right, well, we're going to go ahead and get started on our questions. You'll have 1 minute to answer, and we did go ahead and call out on the slide who will answer first. So next time we'll start with Tony since it's on. And I did ask the candidates if it was okay to use their first names. So we're going informal tonight, and I'm using first names. So thanks, you guys, for being flexible. All right, question 1. What do you think the role of PTA and PTSA is in our schools? Ruben, you're up.
Well, it's a chance for the parents to get together, be part of their kids' lives during the day, bring together experiences for them. And it's really important for me to see where my kid is during the day and his friends and his environment, because he loves school. I have a secondary here and see them. So that, to me, is the important part of Parent-Teacher Association. I haven't been into the Student Association because I'm not sure I want my 8-year-old playing anything at the moment. So now also it is a chance to kind of influence the conversation at a larger scale. Obviously, doing parties, with the kids and the parents, that type of thing. But when you get together and you're seeing things, sorry, my glasses don't work all that well.
Sorry, you're going to get called time. Thank you. 1 minute is not a long time, and I recognize that, but we appreciate helps us get to the most questions. Go. It just counts you in a little.
So the role of PTA and PTSA in our schools, connecting families together to the school. When I was PTA president, there were several activities that we were able to put on for families. We instituted new ones. It's interesting to hear what different schools are doing, and those parents go to a new school and they're like, this is what we did. And then you find, oh, there's other parents that would like to do that as well. The other reason is to advocate for the needs of the children and the families in those schools. PTA has a tremendous legislation agenda. They have a tremendous advocating ability. So when PTA sees that something's going wrong, PTA is in the house to fix it. That's always been my experience with it. So that's what I see. At the high school level is to get children involved with those same connecting to families and advocacy.
What I see it as the role is collaboration and support. It's important that our families are collaborating with the buildings to make sure that they are able to support our teachers and support the needs of our students in our district. One of the things that I will tell you is not only that, the PTA goes over and beyond just collaborating and support. When you look at Longview Farms and their STEM room that they was able to do, that was because of PTA. Also, when there's lack of resources and there's things that buildings see as being priorities, PTA steps in and they do that. But then also, I think that it's a great opportunity for parents to be able to, that are not able, that are not like stay-home parents or things of that sort, to be able to show up for carnivals, show up for field days, to be able to do movie nights. And then also when teachers are there and having in school service days, they can be able to provide snacks for the long days that our teachers give to our buildings during conferences. Thank you.
Yeah, the PTA obviously serves a very important role in the PTSA. I've always viewed the PTA as a fill in the blank because none of our institutions are great at everything. And the PTA steps in where our school district doesn't have the resources or doesn't have the time or whatever. They do fill in the blanks, and they are the intermediary in a lot of ways between the families and the school system. So they're an incredibly important role that they serve, and they certainly deserve a full support.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of great answers tonight. I mean, really, the PTA is super important. It's critical to connect the families back to the teachers, back to really the school as a whole, so that, you know, families can just feel connected. That gives students a chance to, you know, connect where they wouldn't otherwise have relationships. And I mean, of course, I look back and I think of PTA as, all right, man, those Valentine's boxes and those cupcakes, but it's just, it's so much more than that. It's really the chance for the community to get involved in the schools, the teachers to get involved, and for us to highlight any issues and areas that we can improve.
Thank you all. We're going to move on to the next question. Got it. All right. You guys said I was going to yell at you when your time was up, but you guys are the ones making the noise. All right, our next question will start with Mommy. How many collective hours have you spent in a public school in the last year, volunteering, working, visiting, etc.? We'd love to hear your answer on this.
So in number wise, I'd say probably a couple hundred. My daughter is a teacher. I usually go and help her set up her classroom. I help with different activities that they have at her school. Not as much as I did when I
amount of business that I run annually is close to $100 million. Again, that's a third of the district's budget. And if we can appropriately distribute funds to the basics of education, we're going to have, a much better time moving the needle for success on students. And if I had to pare it down to one word, it's really going to be literacy. I've done a lot of research in this, and literacy is tied to several issues, even behavioral issues. Well, we've got students that are graduating the third grade, and they still don't understand the basics of reading. And so once you hit fourth grade and on, you've got to read to learn, right? The material, you have to read it to learn it and digest it. So it's important that we have the right testing procedures and early intervention for students so that we can make sure that they get literacy nailed down through a structured approach with a proper testing criteria in place.
Time's up.
Again, structured literacy.
Same question.
Yeah, I can say the same thing for funding. I think in the near future, we're probably going to have an issue with more non-English speakers, and we're going to need resources for that. We also talked about mental health. There's a lot of things that you could point to, but I think all of these could be encompassed by being nimble to adjust to what's changing. I mean, when I was young, well, let me back up. Raising my own kids is infinitely different than when I was a kid. And having to adjust for that, for these times, I think is going to be the most crucial. I'm not sure I have the answer for that, but I've been talking to a lot of people, and there's a lot of intelligence with there, and I believe collectively we could be nimble.
Inadequate. Our schools lack enough teachers and building staff, so much so that our Title I schools in Lee Summit have been forced to split their reading specialists and math specialists. So what that means is that in a Title I school, those schools receive extra funds because they are a Title I school. And those funds should be used to provide extra resources to the students that we know are the most vulnerable. And we have had to split those specialists between schools, which now means that the students that receive those services are only receiving half of those services. Because you can look on a budget or you can look at a paper and it looks like this is a great plan. But if you haven't been in the school to see what's going on and the chaos and all the things that occur in the school, then it's probably not going to work well.
All right, that one was kind of a general question about education as a whole, and this is a little more specific. First answer will be Bill. What is the greatest challenge you believe our district is facing in life?
I believe that the greatest challenge that every school district is facing is teaching our kids how to read and write and preparing them to be successful in the world that we live in. We have a very dynamic environment socially that Lee Summit has got almost 18,000 students in our school system. There's a lot of activity, there's a lot of moving parts to that. And so I believe it requires us to be focused on the early intervention and teaching our kids the fundamentals that they need. Because in my career, I've hired people with high school educations and diplomas that could not read or write, and those folks are not going to be successful. They struggle. And we're, according to the teachers that I've been talking to, we're still having issues with just basic reading and writing skills. And so I think we need to focus on the fundamentals.
Well, I just told you that I think the biggest issue we face is literacy, and I stand behind that. But I think that is such a broad issue that I could broach another topic, which is closely connected, and that is the fact that we ask a lot of our teachers. Our teachers are awesome, and they are stretched thin, and they need more resources to adequately do their job. I've talked to a lot of teachers over the last few months since I decided to, run for school board, and I have found out that we ask our teachers to be mental health coaches, counselors, social workers, nurses. Teachers are putting on presentations for suicide intervention. Unfortunately, they're not qualified to do all these things, and we're asking way too much of one of our groups of folks in our administration.
I want to say our greatest challenge that we're facing in R7 is telling our story. We are a destination district. We are a great district, and we produce great students that make great community leaders. We have strong leaders, we have strong writers, we have students that are great in the arts. We are a very fiscally responsible district, and we have a board that collaborates and works with one another. And so I think our biggest challenge is really telling the story. When you look at our graduation rate, we're 93%. When you look at our enrollment is up. When you look at the way that we're spending our dollars, we're making sure that every kid, no matter what school they go to, that they get what they deserve. But then also we have an administration that is constantly looking at what are some other opportunities that we can create for our students. And so what is our greatest challenge? It's telling our story that we are a great district. Thank you.
I believe our district is, like many districts, grappling with the increased amount of childhood mental health. Since COVID has occurred, school has not been school, and the educators as well as students are struggling. Our district has been offered funding for resources and those kinds of things, and I think it's just we're not sure what are we supposed to do about those resources. When children are unwell, they cannot learn. That is just a fact. So if you have things going on at home, if you're not even sure if mom's going to be okay, if you have untreated mental health, and you're going to be a student in a classroom, then the teacher is the one that is left to deal with it. So untreated mental health and mental health is the biggest challenge.
I was listening to all the answers and forgot to formulate my own. So previous question was very recent, it was what you know is being able to address these changing environments that we use. Legislative landscape changes quickly sometimes, funding changes quickly, assessment stuff going on. So I would say, all we're doing is, I get there, is what you need. Everyone working together, understand that we have an amazing history. That's not great. We have some special needs. We heard about what's going on here and through friends, and that was someplace we wanted to be. So finding that everyone can agree on, and let's leave off some of these extreme topics.
It's great. We love the answers. All right, our next question will start with Dan. As a board member, how will you work to support all students, even if they are different from you?
That's a great question and a super important topic. I think that diplomacy is probably the most critical characteristic of a board member. And through all discussions, we've got to be diplomatic, we've got to reach a consensus for all students, not just folks that I hang out with on a regular basis. As a board member, and I'm already working on this to better myself, to get out in the community, and quite frankly, to talk to folks that I don't typically talk to. Getting out of my show, connecting with groups. I've sent social media invites, I've sent emails to every single group, every single person that has contacted me on social media. I have offered to connect with personally so I can understand what their perspectives are and just listen. I think that is the most important attribute, and report back to the rest of the group so that we become better as a team and make the right steps for our students.
I believe that as a school system, we deliver a product, and that product is education. All of our students, all 18,000, or almost 18,000 of our students are represented by each and every school board member, as it should be. My intention is, if I'm elected, I want to represent all the students in the school district, not one particular constituency or another. I believe that it is important, as Dan pointed out, that we have to be engaged, and that's exactly what we've been doing. I've got an open invitation. If you guys want to drink coffee with me on Friday, I would welcome you to come up. I would engage with people personally, not on Facebook. I prefer that to get to know people. So I believe that that's my philosophy, and I would represent all the children in the school district equally, regardless of what differences we may have. I'm not sure exactly all that represents.
I think the best way to support all students is to keep them as the focus. I think it's important that you focus on students. So as a board member, every discussion should be, what about the students? When we're looking at curriculum, when we're examining our budget, when we're examining programs, how does this best support our students? And what I will tell you is for the last 3 years, if it's Facebook that needs to be the avenue that we communicate, let's communicate. If it's in person, let's communicate. If it's over the phone, let's communicate. If it's via email, let's communicate. It's making ourselves available to the community, and then the community, us encouraging and creating opportunities for the community to engage with the board.
As a social worker, I've been trained to listen to all sides of conflicts or all sides of whatever the situation is, and then try to find common ground to begin building an answer or building something that we can start to move forward with. I would represent every student in this district. I am one that if you came to me with a situation and I didn't understand exactly what your situation is, I'm going to question and ask and try to get every piece of information so that I can know how I can help.
Well, I hope they're different from me. You get too many of them, it's kind of boring on the road. But one of the things I used to do was 911 operator and a volunteer firefighter, EMT, and it was fascinating meeting everybody in all kinds of areas of their lives. And that's kind of carried me on. This is years and years and years ago. So I actually like to one-on-one talk to people, because that seems to be the best way that you can support them. So usually talk to them, hear what's going on, and then say, hey, what about this? Have you brought up with you want to talk to something like that? And on the different side, I've been meeting with some state legislators on both sides of the aisle, and just getting to know them, and spending one of them. I spent 2.5 hours. Had a good time.
Everyone got to answer that question, right? Okay. Sometimes I get off track. I'm doing so good, and then I get off track. Next question. All right. These can be hard to answer in the 1 minute, but you're welcome to address each specific question or otherwise. Are you committed to advocating in support or in alignment of the Lee Summit R7 legislative platform? How will you personally advocate to oppose open enrollment? And Ruben, you're first on this.
Yeah, so I haven't gone through the legislative platform. I was watching the meeting setting it up, the work session. So, but you talked about open enrollment. And I believe we've got quite a few, not quite a few, but a few pieces of legislation in the pipeline. So, there's quite a few states around us who have enacted some form of this. And it can really hamper, hit our budget. Because we are a destination, like I said, people want to come here. There may be some sort of influx today. So how I would address this is first, continue to be the best one. Yes, people want to come in here. But movie, like I am. I think it's so dysfunctional over there. I don't know if it's going
So open enrollment should never be an option for our destination school district. It'll siphon all of the money out of the public school budget, and it will leave us dry. How would I personally advocate? I'd go to the PTA website, to the legislative page where you can print off a letter to your senator and your congressman. I would text, email. I would also, at UCM, I take my students every year to go to Jeff City and advocate, and I think that's powerful for students. I don't think we do a great job of getting our students the understanding of you have the power in this situation and how is this going to affect you? Because if they start firing off enough tweets, we'll probably start not seeing as much open enrollment.
So there is a House bill that was passed out of the House and is now sitting in the Senate that is to support open enrollment. What I will tell you is that our legislative platform, the Board of Education this year, we created our own legislative platform to say that we oppose open enrollment. We also added other things like literacy and other things that we're advocating for on behalf of the district. And so, as Ms. Juanice has already stated, it would be a detriment to our budget. While this particular bill gives districts an opportunity to opt out, that's why elections are important. Because if you have a board that would actually support open enrollment, then all they have to do is say that they want to be able to support open enrollment. So you need to make sure when you're voting for it, to make sure things like this does not happen in LSR 7. Thank you.
Yeah, obviously, I want to keep at least some of the tax dollars and at least some open enrollment would probably result in some of our tax dollars going to either another school district or perhaps even to a private school. And I'm not in favor of that. I have already suggested on one of my videos on my campaign page to everyone reach out and talk to their state representatives, their state senators, and Governor Parsons. This is a statewide issue with local involvement, and we do need to advocate strongly for our position that we want our tax dollars to stay in the summer. And as far as the greater legislative priorities of the school board, I'm going to support that. I was a little disappointed in the priorities. That safety was number 4 down the list. I think that needs to be number 1. But other than that, I can support the legislative priorities of the school board.
Yeah, I can tell you that I'm intimately familiar with the district's legislative program. We have 9 key objectives and 22 ongoing objectives. And as Bill mentioned, safety is number 4 on the priority and it should be number 1. So we need to re-examine the priorities first and foremost. But in doing so, I would advocate, just as others have mentioned, this role that I'm signing up for is going to require some trips to Jefferson City. It's going to require you to know our state representatives. It's going to require us to have open communication because I understand that they reach out to us as subject matter experts in education before they go vote on these important bills. So that's very much a part of what this job entails, and I'm very aware of it. To respond to open enrollment, I oppose open enrollment. I'm a fan of public education. I'm a champion for public education. We've got to keep our district's dollars in our pockets so that we can adequately work on that big budget that I talked about earlier. So, yeah, we've got to keep the district's money in our pockets.
All right, our next question. Considering special populations in our schools, what does inclusion currently look like versus what you believe is possible when we're talking about inclusion? And Juanice, here first.
Having been in the district for 24 years, we've made tremendous strides towards becoming more inclusive. I know for some, it may not feel like we're there or that we've even made the strides, but having 24 years in the district, I can say we've started making strides by having the conversation. Students can create clubs that help them feel comfortable. What I believe is possible is that we have work to do. I think the moment we start telling students, you're just a student, you're just here to get an education, we are not seeing them. And they are the part of the equation that has to be seen. They have to be heard. And we have to understand, even if it's different than who we are or what we know about. Part of our process should be to make sure that every student feels seen and feels safe in their schools.
So I will tell you that inclusion is who we are. You know, one of the things that we had as a district is we had an equity plan. And one of the things in the commitments that the Board of Education, the current board, is that we said that this should be who we are. It should not be just setting over to the side, but this is what we should do. We should make sure that every single one of our students belong. And so therefore, we have a plan where there's a dignity team in every single one of our buildings and departments. Those dignity teams make sure that they strategize, they talk to make sure that dignity is what lives and is the culture of LSR 7.
Well, obviously, the LSR 7 school district is a representation of our community at large. And we have an enormous variety of people and students in our school district. We have a great variety of activities for those students to participate in. I, as a school board member, would like to be more involved in getting to know the students better and listening to what they have to say, because I believe that they can give us the best feedback.
I mean, I think the best feedback comes from the students themselves, comes from the teachers that are interacting with the students daily. And I'm very aware of the programs that we've had in the past and where we're at today with those programs, the surveys that we issue to the students, and we measure their feelings. And sometimes that can be tough because feelings for students change, they're ever changing, and it's hard to put a metric for that sometimes. But we've got to be aware that every student's different and they all have different needs. We've got to meet the needs of every one of these students, no matter what they look like, no matter what the financial situation is. But no matter what the family dynamic looks like. So we've got to put the right mental health coaches, the teachers in place to provide support for those folks.
That's a rough question for a minute. Because inclusion can, that's complex. I can tell you one story. So my kid, surrounded by his friends one time, being called derogatory names, and he was enjoying it. He has some developmental stuff, and he felt included. He loved it. And those kids were, when they asked him, well, he liked it. And so they really had a different perspective, each of them. But they were being inclusive. They were all having fun. So the inclusion part is, like I said, it's pretty complex. People can be very mean to each other for reasons. So what I would like to see is like a common camaraderie. You see that in the football team.
Time. What is your understanding of social emotional learning, and do you support its use in elementary schools? You only have 1 minute, so the focus was on elementary schools. If you have time, you're welcome to elaborate on other levels at middle or high. Robert, correct.
So social emotional learning, we do that here at LSR 7, and I believe that we should have it in middle school and high school, and it also should be in elementary school. It is giving kids the sense of being able to collaborate, work with others. It is giving them the tools of being able to deal with their feelings. And we know that we have some kids that have little feelings, and we have some that have some real big feelings, right? And so it's being able to give them the tools to be successful as they're learning and to make sure that it's incorporated through the curriculum.
I believe that social and emotional learning can have an impact on our students. However, it's not quantifiable. You can't quantify feelings. Also, one of the feedbacks that I've gotten from a lot of the teachers is that social and emotional learning in the program that we have for that takes a lot of time. It takes an enormous amount of the teacher's time. And they're trying to teach these kids some other things too. So I think that it requires resources also, as Roderick mentioned earlier, we don't have enough resources for everything that we want to do already. So it's a tool in the toolbox. I don't think it's a panacea. It's not going to solve all of our problems.
Yeah, I think social emotional learning, it can be a good thing, right? We need to understand why kids are feeling the way that they feel. They need to understand why they feel the way that they feel. Better communication, right? We need to teach kids how to communicate. All this does come at a tax though, because as Bill mentioned, teachers are there to teach the basics of academics. This is one thing that they've got to focus on, and they have, specific curriculum, they have specific discussions and times that they dedicate towards this. So I think it's bringing on the right resources so that we're not pulling from the teachers, so that the kids that need help in this area, that we can meet their need, and maybe the other students don't need as much help in this area, so we're not maybe putting so much of a tax, so to speak, on the entire system, right? And the other thing that we have to do is we have to manage the way that we message this, the district back to the parents, because when we've got teachers that are having super sensitive discussions with students, we have to include the parents in all these discussions.
Hi.
Okay, sorry, Melanie. I did not research social emotional learning. It sounds good, but I'm gonna guess that's a high level program, probably like a national thing. And my concern with that is, I like my teachers, and they have their finger on the pulse of that classroom, and I bet they kind of get the kids and know, how best to. But what I'm trying to say is I kind of like to get back down to a classroom level where there's not a program per se that the teachers have to follow. I know you got to be able to track things, but to me it just feels like the teacher in the classroom, the principal, would be the closest and have the best knowledge about what's going on and how to handle it. Not the
I always tell my students at UCM the story that happened when my daughter was in kindergarten, and there was there were two kindergarten teachers. There was one that was super nice and felt really warm and fuzzy, and then there was another seasoned teacher that's like, "You're gonna be okay, Mom. You're gonna be okay, kid. We got to get school started. We have to learn. That's what we're here to do." And my daughter got the nice, warm and fuzzy teacher that felt really well. And she was able, through that, to experience social emotional learning. She was able to understand that I know my teacher loves me and cares for me by X, Y, and Z. She has more empathy. All four of my children have more empathy due to social emotional learning. We live in a society that is ever diversifying, and we have to make sure that kids understand we're not all the same.
Go ahead. Did you guys all answer this one? Okay, I got mixed up again. Okay. All right, the next question is a sensitive topic, so I just want to say that. I know there's some kids that are here tonight, so if you'd like, you guys can read the question, just so I don't want to have, is that okay with everyone? You guys all see the question? Okay. You guys all see the question? All right. Just to protect some of the younger people, obviously, I will not read this question out loud, but I would love to have your answers to it. And the first answer will be Bill. Did it die? Okay.
I'll give up my timer, Howard, but
Okay, this is a good question. This is exactly one of the reasons why I think safety should be our number one priority in our school system. Anyone that watched the last school meeting heard a plea for our students, a plea for our school board to do something about the safety in our schools. And I believe that as a school board member, I would make safety as my number one priority, as I mentioned earlier, and represent all the students in our school district. We need to have a serious look at how we handle our safety. I think personally that we have an audit that takes the entire safety program because we have an enormous amount of violence in our schools. Personally, as reported by our students at the school meeting, voted this for late last week.
Also, I was responding to the LGBTQ.
You gonna restart the timer?
Yes, of course. All the highest integrity. I got this.
Okay, yeah, all right. So I think that it's important, obviously, that we meet the needs of everybody in our community. The school board exists so that the voters can have a voice, right? We are one community, and we've got to reach out and support everybody, no matter what your personal views are, your perspectives. What you do in your own time, and quite frankly, your sexual preferences are no concern of you, right? No concern of the board. We've got to make sure that we're supporting things. And we have to provide a physically safe environment for students to learn. And that is a huge thing that I don't have really enough time to talk about. But I am for a data-driven security system for the school. We need to arm our teachers with things like facial recognition, object detections in the walls so that we can monitor bags. That come into school, that we can figure out what a knife, a gun, and a vape is. And we need to give basically a panic button to teachers so that they can properly respond in time to prevent things like this.
Time. I'm going to swap you guys back. Sorry. I apologize. This one is louder, so not as close. Who's up there?
Okay, so I'm going to answer this question. Will I ensure the safety of our LGBTQ students? The answer is yes. Will I also ensure the safety of all of our students? The answer is yes. And what I will tell you is our district does a great job in monitoring the safety in our buildings. Now, did we hear from some students in our last board meeting about other concerns and things that are happening? Absolutely. And guess what? That's the reason why we have the policy in place to hear from our students so that we can make sure that district leadership is looking at all facets of safety for all of our buildings. But I don't want anyone to walk away from this room saying that our district is some unsafe district. We are a safe district. We're monitoring our classrooms. We're monitoring safety every single day to ensure our students are safe. And then also, I'll just go on farther to even say this. Safety is something that is not just a priority, but safety is something that's what we do. And so it's not a number, but it's what we do. We try to make sure that all of our students and staff is safe.
I would assure safety for all LGBTQIA plus students. I would protect it. Having been a parent in the district and having my own children have safety issues, I understand that you go to the school, you talk to the principal, you find out what is the policy. Is every principal across the district doing the policy exactly the same? Well, they can't when the policy says, as the building principal decides. That's probably part of the problem right there where we need to start. Safety of all kids is always paramount in my mind. As a protective mama bear, it was always in my mind to be protective of my children's friends. I have 4 daughters, so I am ultra super protective of my 4 daughters and their friends. So safety is always paramount in my mind.
here. Yeah, so parent of three very small children. We're going to have a fourth in June. They're all going to be coming through, so that's a lot of years of work. So, obviously safety is a huge concern. This helps support safety for all students, including LGBTQ.
Our next question, what steps would you take to address the mental health and well-being of students? And Dan, you're up first.
Well, I think it starts with putting the proper staff in place, right? We talked about putting a budget forward that aligns with, a staffing plan that supports mental health. We've got to take a look at that right now because currently we spend 81% of our budget on teacher salaries, on staff salaries, right? I have done some research and I've looked to add additional staff and take us up to 85%, right? Doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're working with a tight budget, that is a lot of money. So first thing we're going to do is we've got to add the proper staff to take care of the mental health needs of our students. And we've got to provide the proper time so that they can set that aside and actually get the training that they need.
Well, this goes back to something that we've already talked about, that's funding. It's hard to do anything in the public sector without funding. And so we need more funding to do some of these programs. There's a lot of great ideas and there's a lot of great programs out there. We need more funding. And as Roderick mentioned earlier, we need a lot of help from the federal government. What are we going to do if that help doesn't come? It's got to come from our community or from our state. So we need to make sure that our community is engaged in this. Anytime we want to do anything with our school system, we need our parents involved in this. If we have parents that have children that are struggling with whatever reason, if it's an emotional reason or it's some other reason, we need to have resources available for that. And we need to reach out to our community and ask them for those resources if they're not available.
We have enhanced our access to mental health supports for our students to where parents do not have to pull their students out of our district, out of the classroom to receive services, but they can receive them on site. But what I can tell you is we can do more. There's more things that we can look at to be able to meet the needs of our students. We currently have a board member that has suggested that we need to make sure we have a 24-hour crisis line for our students to be able to call if they feel like they're going through a particular crisis. And so again, this is not something that I'm an expert at, but I'm telling you that this is a focus for us as a district, and we will continue to work hard to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our students.
We definitely need to have more proper and qualified staff. As I stated, I was a social worker in a neighboring district. Every neighboring district around us, our size and smaller, has an embedded social work program, meaning that there's a social worker at every school. Our school district has thrown a lot of things at mental health. I think that there are things that could be connected better. There are resources available to provide in-school mental health services to students if our district chooses to use those. If we had an embedded social work program, that would help with the daily mental health letdowns like tantrums, or if grief pops up. Kids carry things different than adults. They're not adults, they're kids. And today I can be okay, tomorrow I may not be okay. And having other support in the school to help the teacher would be awesome.
All right, so quite a few months ago, I had the opportunity to go to the breakfast in one of the school functions, and I got to sit with the director for Rediscover, just by chance. I can't think of his name offhand. Fascinating conversation. He had a few staff come in and chit-chat all about, especially kind of dovetail with my kind of work because I handle this distress calls from people. Anyway, I asked them an interesting question here. So it's obviously, Rediscover is one of our contractors for mental health, one or two, in addition to some of our own. It's obviously not good to expand mental health services in the sense that it's getting worse. So, but we do need to address it. So what would be the underlying reason that we need this support? And I would try, I'm interested in that. What's the underlying solution? Well, we don't need these people. Right? But we can send them somewhere else.
We have a few more questions here, right? The time's going fast for me, but hopefully we have a few more slides. Question, how do you intend to foster community within the high schools? And Ruben, this is you.
Ooh, community. Like I mentioned, the football team has a really tight knit. So how do you get that to happen with people who are not interested in it? There's groups that it seems that we have quite a few programs and interests that people just naturally go to, the chess club, the robotics. And within those, they get to know each other. And that's where bonds are built. We're talking about friendships that just last years and years later on because they spend time with each other. So that is a crucial part in building community in the high schools. How to give you a question in 9 seconds, so I'm going to pass it on.
Fostering community in the high schools. My children all went through Summit schools, and something I know is that by the time they got to high school, they all knew each other, they all had talked about each other, they were mad at each other, they were best friends with each other, I like you, I don't like you, all of that. Something cool though that happens at the high school level is that they get to grow into themselves. So encouraging them and helping them to partake of programs that we already have. My daughter, who's a teacher, was an education cadet, and she was able to start learning about teaching while she was in high school. I have another daughter who is in college currently, and she did our early education program. Encouraging them to go talk to their principals when they don't see them in school and asking, I'd like to have a club, I'd like to add this, I want to know why this isn't in our school.
Absolutely, Ms. Williams was, she's correct. Creating opportunities for our high school students. And so that's what we're striving to do in R7 is to be able to find out what kids are not involved, making sure that we're looking at that data to say, these are kids that are not involved in any type of extracurricular. We know that the data also supports that when kids are in 2 or 3 extracurricular activities, then they are likely to go to a 4-year college. Every kid is not made for college, but being able to create opportunities for all students is what I believe will help to create community. Also from the Board of Education, us implementing our policy for our juniors and seniors to be student reps, giving them opportunities to be a leader for the district, to be able to have direct access and conversations with the Board of Education. And so it's just about being able to create more opportunities so that they can be able to know that they belong and that this is their educational opportunity.
Obviously, everyone in high school, unless you're related to someone, comes from a different household. So we're all, the only thing that the kids have in common when they go to school is that that's where they're at. So every student that is a member of Lee Summit High School or Lee Summit North, Lee Summit West, that's the one thing they have in common with all their friends. Whether they come from, where I live, or where Dan lives, or Juanice, or Roderick, or Ruben. That's the one thing we have in common. And we have a lot of activities for these kids to get involved in. And that's the only way they're going to, I believe, feel a part of the community is to be engaged. If we have kids, as Roderick pointed out, that are not engaged, then we need to have processes that encourage them to be engaged. At the end of the day, that's what it boils down to, I believe, is not looking at what makes us different, but looking at what makes us the same that matters. And I think when we look at what makes us the same, that's when we become a community.
I think about my time in high school, because this question is as old as the beginning of time here. I mean, every student wants to belong to some sort of friend group or community. So, for me, it was athletics, and that was something that I really enjoyed. Once I started getting more into more education focus, more career focus, it was a tech school, right? And I had several opportunities to connect with people through that, several clubs, organizations. I was a member of VICA back when that was a super important priority for the technical organization. It's something that we've got to do a little bit better, but I think we're doing a decent job of providing that. One thing that we're doing right now with the Board of Education, we're doing student-led group where they come back and they report to us. I think this would be an excellent question for our students to ask of themselves and come back and give some suggestions so that as a board we can do things to implement more community.
All right, the first to answer this question will be Moniz. What is your opinion regarding the school district's role in gun safety, gun violence prevention for its students and staff? Should schools provide literature home to families regarding safe firearm storage? Yes or no? How can the school board support schools to provide crisis management in order to avoid an escalation to gun violence?
Okay, I'm going to take the middle one first. Yes, schools should provide literature to families regarding safe firearm storage. My opinion regarding the district's role in gun safety and gun violence prevention is that we, as a district, have the ability to touch every home practically in this community. My students are social workers, and part of their assessment process is that they have to ask, is there a gun in the home? And I remind them, you need to know because you're going to be in that home. So that's why you have to ask. You need to know how safe it is. The second question they have to ask is, where is it stored? And it's unbelievable to them how many times both parents look at each other and say, two different places the gun is stored. And they come back and then we unpack that. How can the school board support schools to provide crisis management? There is a crisis, in order to avoid escalation to gun violence, there is a crisis management team in the district, and I know it goes across the schools as suicide or tragedies occur.
It's a lot for 1 minute. I apologize for that.
So that is a lot. In my opinion, the school district, gun safety, violence prevention, this was something that came up from our students just last week. And so I do believe with our partnership with the police department, this is an area that we can collaborate and we can be able to see how they feel they could best support us in the district to be able to, and as a community, to be able to make sure that we are helping to aid prevention for gun violence and safety. But then also we have Lee Summit Cares that exists, right? And so while Lee Summit Cares focus on like drug prevention, this is also something that we can task the youth to be able to look at prevention. Should we provide literature for our families? Absolutely, and that's something that we can do. Then from the Board of Education standpoint, crisis management, we do have a plan in place for crisis management.
As I mentioned earlier, safety is one of my #1 priorities, and as we listened to this young lady the other night at the school board discuss weapons in our school system, one of the things that we can do is get them out of our school system. This young lady told us that we had someone that was a repeat offender multiple times, bringing weapons to school. I guess as a parent, I want to know why we have someone that is a repeat offender carrying weapons into our school system. So, that's one thing. As a school system, we should be involved in every aspect of safety for our children. We should be providing them. Literature is a very inexpensive way to provide someone with some education. Gun safety, if you guys know what business I'm in, I work with guns. I work with over 600 law enforcement agencies in my business. So we're very plugged into the safety community, and we're all about gun safety.
Yeah, as I mentioned before, I think we've got to provide a data-driven solution for safety in our schools. And we've got great safety, right? I've visited several schools in our district. They all have locked entry vestibules. We have proper building materials and specifications for glass on our windows, and appropriate gauge thickness steel doors. All that kind of stuff is good. But we can always do more. And I got to tell you, being in the construction engineering industry, I'm watching AI develop firsthand. And the first person, the first company out there to master AI for security, boy, I got to tell you, I'm going to buy some stock in that company, because that's where this is going. It's AI, it's artificial intelligence, it's object detection, it's facial recognition, it's arming security with appropriate data so that they can act fast. I think that we need to, we need to go beyond providing literature. We need to provide classes. The Missouri Department of Conservation puts on hunters education, safety, and free firearms instruction. So I would advocate for people to go spend some time there.
Absolutely.
All right, so yeah, the literature, I think is a good idea, but it could become chunkier. And how we're going to have to change that, any kind of culture that thinks it's okay to really go to school. It's going to take action. It's going to take one-on-one dealing with these things that it gets around. It's not something you do. You want to be a part of our community. These are the rules that we have. I don't want to see or hear stories about weapons in the school. I'm a kid. He has no idea. So it is definitely building that community, that culture, that expectations. That's going to be much deeper than a crisis management team, literature, policy.
All right, let's do two more questions. Wrap it up. Question: how will you help students to feel safe in a high school environment where physical fights occur often and can include things like vape smoking blown into the faces of other students? Robert, you're up first.
How would I
Help students feel safe in a high school environment?
to ensure them that the Board of Education is monitoring and tasking our administration to look at prevention. We should be proactive and not reactive, but what I will tell you is from the governance level, when we are not aware of issues that are taking place, once we're aware, then that's when we're able to then act upon those things. And so vaping is not acceptable, physical fights are not acceptable, and we have board policy that is in place to prohibit those things from taking place. But we also know that they'll happen. And so when they do, the question is how do we continue to enhance our monitoring around those particular topics?
I guess I would start by asking, why are fights frequently occurring in our schools? If we are frequently having fights, then I'm going to suggest that we've got some issues that we need to deal with. So that's where I would start. I would start by trying to reduce the number of fights that we have in school. Otherwise, you have to. Maslow's hierarchy always places safety at the very top. If we are not addressing the safety of these students, then we are failing them.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and address the low-hanging fruit first. It's vapes. Why do we have vapes in our classrooms? That's a great question, because we've got to ask ourselves, where the heck are these kids going to vape? They're going to restrooms. All these restrooms should have vape detectors. They should all be interlocked to a building management system. That can be done for really a very low capital improvement project, and that'd be something that I would advocate for. Now the fights, that's a whole other topic. I'm glad we're talking about it because it's super important. Our kids were just telling us last week, excuse me, in the school board meeting that they don't feel safe, that these fights are a major concern. I've been talking to teachers in the district. There's maybe 1, 2 teachers in the entire building that have the proper restraint training to even break up a fight. These teachers are not allowed to intervene in a fight. And I gotta tell you, when a couple 17-year-olds start throwing fists, there's gonna be some damage done. And we've got to put better metrics in place to give teachers the resources they need physically to deal with fights, okay?
How to help students feel safe in a high school environment. If you haven't been in a high school in a while, let me tell you, many of the high schoolers are taller than you are and know way more than you know. But first, I would start with following the policy. If the policy is not effective, revise the policy. Understanding that school systems are complex systems, and because we think things can happen a certain way, that's not always true. There are laws that are in place that dictate who can put someone's hand on a person and who cannot. Teachers can be sued if they put their hands on a child and that child or that student gets harmed and they get sued. So that's a big concern for teachers, as it should be. There's also, when we're talking about safety, safety is the first line of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You must address safety, physical safety, food, before you can get to the top, which is self-actualization.
So I know it talks about students to feel safe, but I bet the teachers and the administration of the buildings don't like this. And that's not something that they're interested in. And so they would be well aware of what's going on. And so to me, it seems that we probably have policies that says, hey, we don't do that. But they still keep happening. So I wonder if there is some sort of disconnect between support for the teachers who are on your side, the administration who are on your side. Let's back these guys up. I've been in some jails, and it's very, very unnerving. And I'm wondering if some of these teachers in the administration is the sense that they can't control some of these fights. So that's where I would start with that culture of we're back here.
The last question for the evening is, board service, serving on the Board of Education is more than a once-a-month board meeting. It consists of work sessions, committee work, board events, school visits, community events, and more. Often there are multiple events in a day or a week. How will you ensure you're able to meet these commitments? Bill.
That's a great question. My wife's my boss, and she told me I had to be at all of these events, so I've got to be there. But seriously, I do own my own business. I have an enormous amount of personal freedom from a time standpoint. I only work half days. I just pick out which 12 hours I'm going to work when the day starts. But because I do have an enormous amount of personal freedom in my life, attending all of these events will not present a challenge to me.
Now, I'm really fortunate to work at a company that gives me the flexibility to even sit up here and try to pursue an opportunity like this. And I know that they've got my back 100%. When I talked to my HR representative and I told her that I was running for the Board of Education, she actually teared up a little bit. And I thought that was such a testimony to, the company that would support somebody to go out in the community and do big things, right? That is one of our core initiatives, is to boldly go and to serve. So I know they've got my back. I understand exactly what the job entails on paper, right? Have I done the job? No. But I'm a fast study, and I'm willing to learn, and I'm very receptive to listen to everybody here. And really, I welcome any feedback, discussion. I love this stuff, guys. I'm here for you. I'm here for your kids. And I want to learn how to engage at this level.
There is a lot of sacrifices and commitment that is required to serve on the Board of Education. And I will tell you that it has only been the backbone of my wife, my kids, and my employer that has given me the privilege and the opportunity to be able to serve the last 3 years. And I will tell you, all three of those areas have, in my life, has committed to allowing me to serve for an additional 3 years. Ultimately, we have to keep students first. And when you keep students first, all of these other events and things that we attend, it becomes fun, because seeing the impact that we get to make on our students and our staff, that's what makes this a humbling opportunity to be able to serve in this way.
I'm committed to the students of LSR 7 and all of the glory that comes with it. As a parent of 4 kids that were all in the district at the same time, the calendar gets full really quickly, and there's lots of hustle and bustle between schools and all of that. So it kind of actually gets me a little excited to go back to those days, because I've been removed for a bit. The last activity that we participated in would have been girls cross country. And the coach there actually teared up when my youngest daughter finished, because he realized the next year was going to be the first time that he didn't have a Williams on his team. So I enjoy those kinds of things. In higher ed, my classes are set, and that's when I go teach. And then the rest of my time is filled with whatever it is, volunteering or doing things with my students at UCM. So I don't foresee that being a problem at all.
Yeah, so I've been going to all the meetings and a lot of school events from all different schools over the last year, and kind of preparing myself to, what's it going to look like. So obviously with 3 very young kids, and I'm having too much fun here. Because you meet all kinds of people. One of the breakfasts we had is a choir. Middle school? Yeah, we're really good. So you can't do that. Normally, unless you got a kid in there, so you kind of stealing someone else's joy. So I'm looking forward to still being a part of it, even if I don't get in, because like I said, it's been fun and very true. It's your family, your job, and your interest that allow you to be able to do this kind of stuff.
Thank you. Thank you all for your answers. I commend you. You all got very good at very succinct answers, so nicely done. Thank you to everyone that submitted questions. I know we had community questions. We did take all the questions in advance this time simply so we could live stream and produce this and everything. I do want to remind everyone our election is on April 2nd. If you need more information on voting or absentee voting, the district has provided that, and it is available to you at lsr7.org. I'd just like to thank everyone, and I did not thank Lee Summit North facilities team, staff for helping. They helped us coordinate. I've never used the Performing Arts Center before, so a huge thanks to Mr. Palmer and the entire team at Lee Summit North for allowing us to use their facility and welcoming us and making sure we can make this happen. So with that, we're finished. You are able to stay and talk with candidates until 8:30 if they're available. Please be a good steward of our facilities and take what you brought in and clean up. And I appreciate all of you very much. Don't forget to vote on April 2nd. Thank you all.